For thousands of years, the Galactic Council reigned supreme. Its vast member species ruled over countless systems, managing peace through the ancient balance of power, carefully ensuring no one race ever grew too dominant, too independent, or too dangerous. This balance was what they called stability. But to many it was simply stagnation. And in that stagnation, the cries of the forgotten grew louder. There were outer colonies left defenseless, minor species trapped beneath puppet regimes, and entire sectors where pirate kings ruled uncontested. The Council's ruling elite had grown fat, content with their own luxuries while suffering spread like rot through the galactic rim. But the Council did not care, because no one could challenge them. Or so they thought. Far from the center of galactic power, in an obscure sector known as Edge 37, one such cry reached a world the Council had long dismissed as irrelevant: Earth. The signal. It started as a garbled transmission, intercepted by a human exploration frigate, the Horizon Dawn, patrolling the unregulated fringes of space. The voice was desperate, nearly drowned in static, but unmistakable. Assistance, repeated attacks. Council refuses, children starving, pirates control trade, please. Someone, help us. Captain Elena Miles narrowed her eyes as she replayed the recording for the third time. Her bridge crew sat in silence, tension thick. They're abandoned out there, her first officer, Commander Grant, said quietly. Miles exhaled. The Council's jurisdiction claims the sector. They won't act. And if we do? Grant asked. They'll call it interference. A violation of sovereignty. Might even threaten sanctions. A deep silence followed. But they're calling for help, Miles finally said. And we're here. The crew looked at her. They knew the unspoken weight of the decision. Miles stood. Send word to command. We're going in. And thus, humanity answered. A council that didn't care. When the Council received word that a small human vessel had intervened in Edge 37, their reaction was mild amusement. Typical Terrans, chuckled Minister Gorin of the Valari Dominion. Always inserting themselves where they don't belong. Ambassador Varkesh, one of the Council's elder advisors, sneered. They believe morality supersedes order. Naive. They will learn, growled Admiral Youth of the Korik Empire. The pirates serve a purpose. They maintain control of the fringes without dirtying our hands. If humans disrupt that, let them face the consequences. And so the Council looked away. They assumed Earth's intervention was nothing more than a minor act of charity, irrelevant in the grand scheme. After all, the Council had controlled such things for millennia. But again, they had underestimated the humans. The first fight. The pirates that ruled Edge 37 were not ordinary criminals. They were warlords, mercenaries, and defectors, ruthless, heavily armed, and far more organized than their name suggested. They were backed, unofficially, by Council factions who profited from the chaos. When the Horizon Dawn arrived, they were immediately ambushed. 6 raider vessels circled them like vultures. The pirate commander, a brutal Grenth named Korlax, opened a wideband channel. Earthship. You have no jurisdiction here. Leave now or be destroyed. Captain Miles didn't blink. We're responding to a distress signal. Stand down and surrender. The pirate crew laughed over the comms. You're outnumbered, fool. But they hadn't studied the humans. What the pirates mistook for a single exploration frigate was, in fact, a fully modernized combat variant, heavily upgraded under Earth's rapid military expansion program. The humans knew that peace wasn't guaranteed. They had prepared for this very sort of scenario. Miles gave one final order. Weapons free. In less than 2 minutes, 4 of the pirate ships were vaporized. The remaining 2 fled, engines screaming as they scrambled for hyperspace. The survivors on the colony world below, once ruled by the pirates, watched in awe as the impossible unfolded above them. For the first time in generations, the sky was clear. A child clung to her mother, whispering, "Mama, the humans came." And across the stars, similar stories began to emerge, humans answering calls for help where the Council would not. The spark spreads. Earth's intervention didn't end at Edge 37. Once the first mission succeeded, others followed. Human medical teams landed on starving colonies. Engineers rebuilt shattered infrastructure. Security forces trained local defense militias. Diplomatic envoys negotiated treaties with species long left abandoned by the Council. The neglected outer sectors, once isolated, began uniting under Earth's protection. Not as subjects, but as allies. And in every sector where humans arrived, a phrase echoed on the lips of liberated worlds. When the galaxy turned away, humanity heard us. The Council's alarm. At first, the council mocked these developments. Then they grew concerned. And finally, terrified. Ambassador Varkesh slammed his hand onto the council table. They are building alliances. High Minister Zurek of the Ivorn Collective hissed. Entire sectors pledge loyalty to Earth. If this continues, we lose our hold on the outer rim. They're destabilizing centuries of order, growled Admiral Yuth. But Chancellor Veldran, leader of the council, remained calm. They're spreading too quickly. Overextending. When they stumble, we will strike. Patience. But Varkesh shook his head. No, Chancellor. You misunderstand. They aren't building an empire. They're building something else. What? Hope. The beginning of the end. In less than 3 years, dozens of independent colonies declared alignment with Earth's growing coalition. Minor species once enslaved or taxed into ruin now found new life, new trade, and, most dangerously to the Council, a voice. Human ships, once confined to exploration, now patrolled entire sectors. Human diplomatic envoys replaced bribed Council governors. And as the Council continued to watch, frozen by their arrogance, a new galactic order was quietly being born. One built not on fear or dominance, but on mutual respect and cooperation. But the Council would not remain passive forever. And humanity knew it. As Captain Miles stood aboard Earth's first long-range fleet carrier, she stared into the stars and whispered. They ignored the cries for centuries. But we heard them. And now, the galaxy changes. 3 years later, deep space, Council Observation Station Valtor 6. Ambassador Varkesh's tentacles twitched nervously as the latest holographic reports flooded his private chamber. Dozens of systems once considered stable under Council influence had declared open alignment with Earth's coalition. Not submission. Not annexation. Alignment. They're not building an empire, he whispered again, the words bitter in his mouth. They're building loyalty. His aide, a younger Valari diplomat, dared speak. Perhaps, Ambassador, perhaps we should adapt. Varkesh turned, his eyes wide with fury. Adapt? To them? The aide shrank back but still spoke bravely. They feed the starving. Heal the sick. Protect the weak. The people, they love them. That, more than anything, filled Varkesh with dread. Fear he understood. Fear was control. But hope? Hope was uncontrollable. Earth's Coalition Assembly, Capital Hub, New Geneva. A massive chamber buzzed with activity. Delegates of over 40 different species sat together. Former slaves of Council economics, refugees from neglected colonies and newly liberated trade worlds. And at the head of this growing alliance stood Fleet Admiral Marcus Harlan, Earth's military representative. Humanity had changed. The former species laughed at Earth once, calling them young, reckless upstarts. But now they witnessed a species that had not simply mastered war, but had mastered stability. Order. Harlan called. The chamber quieted. Today the Dravari worlds have formally joined the coalition. Our reach extends further than ever before. But with expansion comes risk. The Council no longer watches from afar. They prepare. A low hum of anxiety filled the room. They see our unity as rebellion. They will strike soon, added Ambassador Tlar of the Othran League. We are outnumbered. Harlan's voice grew sharper. We are outnumbered, yes. But we are not outmatched. He gestured to the holo display. Fleets of advanced human warships surrounded coalition sectors. No longer were they ragtag escorts. These were designed for galactic war. You came to us for protection, Harlan said, his voice iron. And we will protect you. The Council must learn, when you ignore the cries of the galaxy, you forfeit your right to rule it. The chamber erupted in applause. Meanwhile, the Council's emergency summit. Supreme Chancellor Veldran's voice thundered through the great chamber. This must end. The gathered warlords, admirals and political masters of the old order hissed, argued and shouted. They violate ancient treaties. They destabilize our worlds. They destroy balance. But the people follow them. Admiral Yuth roared. And there, at the heart of their panic, was the Council's deepest fear. Earth had not conquered through force. They had conquered through service. The Chancellor slammed his fist on the dais. Then we will force them into war. They refused to attack first. We will leave them no choice. The plan was set. The catalyst, Council provocation. The first act of aggression came at the border colony of Ventera 9, a former mining world under coalition protection. Council-backed mercenaries, deniable, unmarked, descended upon the civilian colony in the dead of night. They bombed supply depots, destroyed communication satellites, and sabotaged life support generators, all without identifying themselves. Thousands of civilians were left vulnerable as air supplies dwindled. But within hours, humanity's rapid response units deployed. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Ortega's strike team landed under harsh winds and blinding debris storms. The attackers expected resistance, but not the kind that arrived. Orbital sensors caught the heat signatures too late. Human drop teams deployed from suborbital stealth pods, landing like shadows across the cliffs. Team Alpha cut power to their anti-air. Beta suppressed ground positions. Gamma, extraction zone secure. In under 20 minutes, every mercenary force was either captured or eliminated. Humanity's special forces, trained, adaptive, merciless when civilians were threatened, had neutralized the attack with surgical efficiency. They found survivors gasping in oxygen-starved shelters. Medical teams rushed in, stabilizing the civilians, rebuilding atmospheric controls within hours. And as one rescued child looked up at Lieutenant Ortega, she whispered the words now spreading across 1,000 liberated worlds. The humans came. The tipping point. But the Council's plan failed, spectacularly. The attack was meant to provoke Earth into reckless retaliation, giving the Council justification for a full war declaration. Instead, Earth exposed the attack to the galaxy, releasing irrefutable sensor data, captured mercenary confessions, and intercepted Council transmissions. Entire star nations watched in horror as the Council's lies unraveled. Even several Council-aligned species began secretly opening back-channel negotiations with Earth. The Council's iron grip was fracturing. Behind the curtain, Earth's strategic genius. In the shadows of New Geneva, Earth's Intelligence Directorate gathered under their unassuming leader, Director Elena Voss. Her office was quiet, efficient, ruthless. Status report, she ordered. Agent Marcus Tyre spoke first. 12 minor factions have expressed interest in switching allegiance after the Council's failed Ventera operation. Excellent. The Council grows desperate. And desperate rulers make mistakes. Voss turned her attention to a massive strategic map. The Council still believes we fear open war. Tyre nodded. They haven't fully grasped it yet. What? That humanity doesn't fear war, he said, voice like steel. We fear leaving people behind. Council High Command, the line crossed. With every failed provocation, every exposed crime, the Council's pride rotted into madness. They leave us no option. Chancellor Veldran finally screamed. We have delayed too long. The humans refuse to submit, and their influence spreads unchecked. Admiral Youth snarled, then we strike at the heart. He activated a massive display, New Geneva, Earth's capital. We annihilate their leadership. Cripple their fleet yards. Send a message to every world. The price of defying the Council is extinction. The chamber roared in wicked agreement. The Council prepared for the largest single assault since the founding of the Galactic Accord. War was coming. But what the Council still failed to realize. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first entered the stars. Above Earth, in the massive orbiting command ship Vigilant Dawn, Admiral Harlan reviewed the Council fleet's incoming movement. He whispered to his staff. They're coming. Just as we knew they would. And this time, they won't walk away. Galactic Council Warfleet, en route to Sol System. The Council's armada stretched across hundreds of kilometers. Capital dreadnoughts, destroyer swarms, carrier hulks brimming with strike craft, and escort fleets from dozens of species conscripted into the Council's last desperate gamble. Admiral Youth stood at the command throne of his flagship Tyrant's Hammer, studying the tactical readouts with a cruel smirk. This is not war, Youth growled. This is extermination. His officers nodded. The humans were innovative, yes. Fierce. But in their eyes, Earth was still young. Still naive. Their fleet was impressive for its size, but it was simply too small. They will break under the sheer mass of our power. Vigilant Dawn, orbiting Earth. Admiral Marcus Harlan stood on his warbridge, arms clasped behind his back, his face calm as stars shifted outside the panoramic viewports. The massive Council fleet approached Sol space, arrogant, loud, and certain. Status, Commander, Harlan said softly. Defense grid fully operational, Commander Fields replied. All outer platforms aligned. Planetary shields at full capacity. Reserve fleet standing ready. Civilian shelters secured. And the home guard? The commander smiled. Eager. Harlan allowed himself a rare grin. Good. Humanity's greatest secret wasn't their warships or weapons. It was preparation. From the moment humanity first stepped into galactic politics, Earth's military planners assumed that one day, the old powers would seek to crush them. Every scientific breakthrough, every technological advancement, every alliance, all had been built not for conquest, but for survival. Now, survival would be their weapon. The opening salvo. Council fleets exited hyperspace just beyond Jupiter's orbit. Within seconds, the Council launched their opening assault. Mass driver slugs accelerated to near-light speed, wave after wave of guided torpedoes and high-energy beam lances targeting Earth's orbital defense grid. But humanity did not flinch. From the far side of the system, Earth's deep space kinetic interceptors ignited, thousands of automated defense platforms hidden within asteroid belts and icy moons unleashed coordinated counterstrikes. Torpedoes vaporized. Mass drivers shredded before impact. Beam lances dispersed through advanced point defense barriers. The first wave failed before reaching Mars. Council command, growing confusion. Admiral Yutha's smile twitched. Recalibrate targeting. Increase mass driver salvos by 300%. Focus fire on the primary orbital platforms. Yes, Admiral, his officers replied, but their confidence had begun to crack. Sensors revealed something the Council had not expected. Humanity's defense grid was layered, redundant, and disturbingly adaptive. Artificial intelligence systems updated target priorities in real time, deploying countermeasures with machine precision. They're learning our attack patterns mid-battle, hissed the Vaskari tactician. No matter, Yuth barked. Overwhelm them. But as the Council unleashed its second barrage, Earth's true defense was only beginning to awaken. Humanity's response. The first human fleet emerged from behind the shadow of Saturn. Battle Group Orion. 50 human warships in tight formation, engines burning white-hot, charging toward the Council's outer formations. Target their flanks, Fleet Commander Ortega ordered. Human war doctrine was not based on mass assaults. It was built upon rapid adaptation, decentralized command, and ruthless precision. Where Council ships operated under strict hierarchies and rigid formations, human captains were trained to exploit openings within seconds. Commanders authorized to shift tactics without waiting for central command approval. As Battle Group Orion engaged, Council flank squadrons began to falter. Human railguns sliced through enemy destroyers. EMP torpedoes crippled communication relays. Drone swarms overwhelmed shield nodes. In less than 20 minutes, the Council's flanking force began collapsing. Council flagship, cracks in the iron will. Admiral Yutha's rage boiled. They're breaking protocol, he roared. No species fights like this. Because no species was like humanity. The Council, for all its power, had stagnated. Their fleets relied on centuries-old battle doctrines optimized for dominance over their own vassals. They were not prepared for an enemy that rewrote the rules mid-battle. Earth's second counterstrike, the ambush. Suddenly, from hyperspace breaches behind the Council formation, a second human fleet emerged. Battle Group Seraphim. Led by Vice Admiral Reiko Tanaka, these ships deployed experimental stealth cruisers, cloaked until the moment of attack. Fire at will. Antimatter shells and plasma lances tore through the Council's vulnerable rear lines. Supply ships exploded. Ammunition freighters vaporized. Communications severed. Chaos rippled across the Council armada. They've cut our supply lines, screamed a Council officer. The battlefield evolves. Within hours, the Council invasion force was no longer an organized assault. It was a fractured, bleeding swarm. Human commanders exploited gaps, splitting the armada into isolated pockets, each outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. On Earth, civilians watched from their bunkers, safe behind planetary shields, as live feeds displayed the impossible. Council fleets retreating. Human strike groups victorious. The invasion is collapsing. Across liberated worlds, former slaves and allies watched in awe. The impossible had happened. Humanity, the species no one took seriously, was winning. The Council's desperation. As night fell across the Council High Command chambers, Chancellor Veldran screamed into the chamber. This cannot be. They have outgrown us, Varkesh whispered in horror. They were never children. But how? Veldran spat. Their numbers are fewer. Their history is shorter. They listen, Varkesh said. They adapt. And most terrifying, they care. Veldran's voice trembled. We must use the Omega weapon. The room fell silent. It was forbidden technology, a starkiller device, ancient and unstable. To deploy it risked annihilation beyond their own comprehension. but their pride blinded them. Admiral Youth simply nodded. It will remind them who rules the stars. The final act begins. Word reached Admiral Harlan aboard Vigilant Dawn. The Omega device is en route. He closed his eyes for a long breath. They're willing to destroy everything to maintain control, he whispered. His advisors stared. How do we respond? Harlan's voice became steel. We end this. Now. And so, humanity prepared for the final battle, not to defend themselves, but to save the very galaxy the Council was willing to burn. Deep space, en route to Sol. The Omega device, a relic of ancient, forbidden technology, drifted toward the Sol system, escorted by the shattered remnants of the Council's elite guard. Its core glowed like a dying star, pulsing with barely contained apocalyptic energy. If activated, it would collapse Earth's sun into itself, annihilating the solar system and anyone within it. This is madness, even Varkesh screamed, standing on the tyrant's hammer. We will doom not only humanity but ourselves. Admiral Yutha's face was cold, alien eyes locked on the distant Earth. No, Ambassador. We end this infestation forever. But Youth had miscalculated, one final time. Vigilant Dawn, Earth orbit. Admiral Harlan stood over the tactical display, watching the Omega devices approach. His staff was silent, every officer tense, but none broken. They're sacrificing everything, whispered Commander Fields. Even their own fleets to deliver it. Yes, Harlan nodded. Because they've already lost. This is desperation, not strategy. He turned to his chief strategist. Are the intercept teams in position? Yes, Admiral. The Valkyrie wing is en route. Harlan's voice sharpened. Then we end this. Full transmission, open channel. A message to the galaxy. Across countless systems, screens lit up as Earth transmitted one final message. Admiral Harlan's face appeared, firm but calm. To the citizens of the galaxy, the Council's final act is not one of justice but of genocide. They seek to destroy not only us, but light itself. We will not allow it. Know this, humanity never desired war. But you forced it upon us. We rose not to conquer but to defend. And we will defend to the last star. Watch now. The Council's reign ends today. The transmission cut. And then humanity moved. The Valkyrie wing. 12 stealth-equipped strike cruisers dropped from hyperspace behind the Omega convoy, undetected until the last moment. Leading them was Captain Elena Vasquez, one of Earth's finest. All teams execute Plan Blackout. In perfect coordination, Valkyrie wing unleashed their assault. EMP warheads detonated within precise vector alignments, disrupting the Omega device's external power relays. The escort ships scrambled, unable to adapt to the blinding swarm of human strike drones. Council admirals screamed orders, but their fleets were too rigid, too slow. Vasquez's ship dove toward the device itself, skimming its destabilizing radiation. We have a lock on the command node, her weapons officer shouted. Fire. A pair of hyper-precision plasma lances ripped into the Omega's core controls, disabling the device's activation sequence. Its deadly glow began to dim. Council collapse. Admiral Youth stood frozen as reports flooded his bridge. They've disarmed it. Main fleets are collapsing. Rear lines have surrendered. Panic swelled across Council communications as vassal species, long suppressed, rose in rebellion. The once mighty Council fleet was no longer a force of dominion. It had become a graveyard of wreckage and betrayal. Even among his own commanders, officers defected. This cannot be. Youth screamed. We are the rulers of this galaxy. No longer, whispered one of his own captains, turning his weapon upon him. Humanity is not your enemy. Your pride is. A single shot ended Yutha's reign. The Council surrenders. At last, in the ruins of the battlefield, surviving Council dignitaries transmitted unconditional surrender to Earth's coalition. Admiral Harlan stared into the incoming message. Chancellor Veldran appeared, broken, trembling. You have defeated us. Harlan's voice was calm. No. You defeated yourselves. Veldran wept bitterly. What will you do to us? Harlan's answer was the one no Council member could have predicted. We will not become what you were. You will disband the Council. Your worlds will govern themselves. You will answer for your crimes, under galactic law, not ours. And we will build something better. Together. The dawn of a new order. Months later, the Galactic Concord was born. Gone were the days of Council dominance. In its place stood a true cooperative, species working side by side. Not under the boot of fear but with the bonds of mutual respect. Humanity did not rule the stars. They led by example. On planets once scarred by council cruelty, human engineers rebuilt cities. Their doctors healed generations of wounds. Their fleets patrolled not as conquerors but as guardians. Across the galaxy, a single phrase echoed in song, in history, in every liberated heart. When the galaxy looked away, humanity answered the call. New Geneva, coalition capital. At a quiet park beneath Earth's twin moons, Admiral Marcus Harlan walked alone as children from dozens of worlds played freely around him. No walls. No guards. No fear. Beside him, Director Voss approached, holding a data pad. "It's done," she said softly. "It's never done," Harlan smiled. "But it's a start." Voss nodded. "You were right, you know." "About what?" "That humanity wasn't dangerous because of our weapons." "No," Harlan said, eyes on the sky. "It's because when everyone else gave up, we didn't." The end. Milky Way call to action. If you enjoyed this full HFY epic, make sure to subscribe to the Void Narratives. More intense, galaxy-shaking stories are coming your way, stories where humanity doesn't just survive. We rise. Rocket Fire, subscribe now. The Void is calling.